My name is Maya, and the day I signed the deed to become my ex-fiancé's landlord became the turning point of my life. I stood in the marble lobby of his luxury apartment building, holding a manila folder that contained everything: the purchase agreement, the tenant records, his signature from 3 years ago when he'd moved in with her. My lawyer stood beside me, trying not to smile. The building manager kept glancing between us, confused about why the new owner looked like she was about to cry. But these weren't tears of sadness. They were something else entirely. Something that had taken 3 years, 2 jobs, and every ounce of my broken heart to achieve. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you thought you'd grow old with? Let me back up. 4 years ago, I was a different person. I was Maya Sharma, 28 years old, working as a junior architect at a mid-sized firm in Mumbai, engaged to Arjun Malhotra, the man I'd loved since college. We weren't rich, but we were happy. Or, at least, I thought we were. We lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Andheri, splitting rent, cooking dinner together on weeknights, planning a simple wedding that would happen once we'd saved enough. His family had money, old money from real estate, but Arjun had always insisted on making his own way. I loved that about him. I loved his integrity. Or what I thought was integrity. Arjun worked in his father's real estate development company, but in a junior position he claimed he'd earned. I worked 60-hour weeks, sometimes more, sketching designs until 2 a.m., trying to prove myself in a field dominated by men who thought a woman's place was in residential interiors, not commercial projects. But I was good, really good. My senior partner, Mr. Khanna, had just assigned me to lead a major hotel redesign project, my first real break. I remember the night everything changed. It was a Thursday in November. I'd come home early, around 8, which was rare. I'd bought wine and his favorite biryani from the place in Bandra. I was excited. I wanted to celebrate with him, to share my good news about the hotel project. When I opened the door, the apartment was dark except for the blue glow of his laptop in the bedroom. "Arjun!" I called out, kicking off my heels. He closed the laptop so fast it almost fell off the bed. His face was pale. "You're home early," he said. Not, "How was your day?" Not, "What's the occasion?" Just that flat observation, tinged with something that looked like panic. "Surprise," I said, holding up the food. "I thought we could—" "I need to talk to you," he interrupted. The room suddenly felt very cold. You know that feeling when your body knows something terrible is coming before your mind catches up? That's what it was. My hands started shaking, and I set the food down on the dresser. "Okay," I said slowly. He couldn't look at me. He stared at his hands, at the floor, at the wall, anywhere but my eyes. "I've been thinking about us, about our future. And I don't think we want the same things anymore." I sat down on the edge of the bed. "What do you mean? Arjun, what's going on?" "I've met someone," he said quietly. "Her name is Nisha. She works with my father, and I think I'm in love with her." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually gasped, like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. "You think you're in love with her? We're engaged. We've been together for 6 years." "I know, and I'm sorry, Maya. I really am. But she understands my world better. She comes from a similar background. She's rich," I said flatly. "That's what you mean." He finally looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Shame, yes, but also defensiveness, resolution. "It's not just about money. But yes, she has the connections my family needs for the business. My father thinks—" "Your father thinks?" I stood up, anger flooding through me. "Since when do you let your father make decisions about your life? About our life?" "This is different. The business is struggling. We need investors, and Nisha's father owns a construction empire. This merger makes sense." "Merger?" I repeated, the word tasting like poison. "You're talking about your relationship like it's a business deal." "Everything is business, Maya. I thought you'd understand that. Working in architecture, sometimes we have to make practical choices. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. Instead, I just stared at him, this man I'd loved for 6 years, and realized I was looking at a stranger. When did you become this person? He didn't answer. I moved out that weekend. I stayed with my friend Priya, sleeping on her couch, crying until I thought I'd run out of tears. But life doesn't pause for heartbreak. The hotel project was moving forward, and I had to pull myself together. I threw myself into work with a manic intensity that worried my friends, but saved my sanity. I worked 16-hour days. I perfected every detail of those hotel designs until they sang. 3 months later, Arjun married Nisha in a wedding that was featured in 3 luxury magazines. I know because Priya accidentally left one open on her coffee table, and I made the mistake of looking. There he was, in a cream sherwani, smiling at a woman dripping in diamonds and designer silk. The caption mentioned the power union of two real estate dynasties. They'd moved into a penthouse in Worli, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Mumbai. I looked up the building out of masochistic curiosity. Rent for a unit like theirs? 4 lakhs a month, nearly $5,000. Money I couldn't even imagine having. But here's what Arjun didn't know about me. I was never someone who stayed down. The hotel project launched 6 months after our breakup, and it was a massive success. The client was thrilled. Mr. Khanna promoted me to senior architect and gave me a significant raise. But more importantly, it put me on the map. Other clients started calling. I started getting approached for private consultations, luxury residential projects, commercial developments. I said yes to everything, every single project, no matter how exhausting. I worked like someone possessed, because in a way, I was. I was possessed by the need to prove that I was worth something, that choosing money over love with me was the biggest mistake Arjun would ever make. A year after the breakup, I started my own boutique architecture firm. It was terrifying. I took out loans, maxed out credit cards, rented a tiny office space that was really just a converted storage room. But I had a reputation now, and clients followed me. My designs were getting attention for being both beautiful and innovative. I won an award from the Indian Institute of Architects. Then another. Money started coming in. Real money. I bought myself a small apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I hired 2 junior architects, then 4. Within 2 years, my firm was being mentioned in the same breath as companies that had been around for decades. And through it all, I thought about Arjun. I wish I could say I didn't, that I moved on completely, but that would be a lie. Every success felt hollow because part of me was still that girl in the apartment in Andheri, holding biryani and wine, about to have her heart broken. I dated other people, but I always held something back. I couldn't help it. Then 3 years after our breakup, something interesting happened. I was in a meeting with a potential client, a private equity firm that specialized in real estate investments. They wanted me to consult on a residential portfolio they were acquiring, several luxury buildings across Mumbai that needed renovation and rebranding. As we went through the list of properties, one address jumped out at me. The building in Worli, Arjun's building. My heart started pounding, but I kept my face neutral. "Tell me about this one," I said casually. The investment manager, a sharp woman named Rena, pulled up the file. "This is an interesting case. The building is well located, but it's been mismanaged. The owner is elderly and wants to liquidate. We're getting it for below market value because he wants a quick sale. Our plan is to renovate, rebrand, and either hold for rental income or flip it in 2 years." "What's the asking price?" I asked. She told me. It was a lot of money, 30 crores, about $3.6 million, but it was indeed below market for a building that size in that location. And I had been saving aggressively, reinvesting every profit from my firm. I'd also been approached by venture capital investors interested in scaling my business. And I had money available. An absolutely insane idea started forming in my mind. What if I wanted to buy it? I heard myself say. personally, not as part of your portfolio. Would the seller consider a competing offer? Rena raised her eyebrows. You want to buy an entire apartment building? I'm an architect, I said. I know how to add value to properties. And I've been looking for investment opportunities. This was true, actually. My financial advisor had been pushing me to diversify. She studied me for a moment, then smiled slowly. Let me make some calls. The next 2 weeks were a blur of financial meetings, loan applications, and due diligence. I brought in a real estate lawyer, an accountant, and my financial advisor, all of whom thought I was crazy. The building needed work. Not structural issues, but cosmetic updates and management improvements. I'd have to take on debt, even with my savings. It was risky. But when I looked at the tenant roster and saw A. Malhotra and N. Malhotra, Unit 2401, I knew I was going to do it. I didn't tell anyone the real reason. I told my team it was a solid investment, which it was. I told my parents I was diversifying my portfolio, which I was. But the truth? The truth was that I wanted Arjun to know that the woman he'd left, because she wasn't rich enough, now owned the very roof over his head. The sale closed on a Friday in March. I signed the documents in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. When the lawyer slid the deed across the table, I had to take a moment. I was now the owner of a 42-unit luxury apartment building in one of Mumbai's most expensive neighborhoods. I was Arjun's landlord. I didn't do anything dramatic at first. I hired a property management company to handle day-to-day operations and started planning the renovations. I reviewed the tenant files personally, including Arjun's. He'd been a model tenant, actually. Always paid rent on time, no complaints. He probably had no idea the building had even been sold. I decided to send out a formal letter to all tenants introducing myself as the new owner. Nothing personal, just a professional notice about upcoming improvements and my commitment to maintaining the building's standards. I drafted it carefully with my lawyer, making sure it was entirely appropriate and businesslike. The letter went out on a Tuesday. Arjun called me on Wednesday. I was in my office reviewing blueprints when my phone rang with a number I deleted 3 years ago but still recognized. My hand hovered over the phone for 3 rings before I answered. Maya? His voice was exactly the same, and I hated how my heart responded to it. Hello, Arjun, I said coolly. I got this letter. Are you really the owner of your building? Yes. There was a long silence. I don't understand. How did I afford it? I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. I worked for it. I built a successful business. I made good investments. You know, the practical choices you were so concerned about. Maya, I didn't mean... Why are you calling Arjun? If this is about your lease, I can assure you everything will remain professional. The property management company handles all tenant relations. It's not about the lease, he said quietly. I heard about your firm, about your success. And now this. I wanted to say I'm impressed and I'm sorry for how I handled things, for what I said to you. I closed my eyes. 3 years ago, I would have given anything to hear those words. Now they just felt empty. Thank you for saying that, but it's in the past. Is it? He asked. Because buying my building feels like, I don't know, a statement. It's an investment, I said firmly. A good one. The building was undervalued, it's in a prime location, and I have the expertise to increase its value. Your residence here is completely incidental to my business decision. Another silence. I could hear him breathing, could imagine him in that expensive penthouse, probably standing by those floor-to-ceiling windows I'd seen in the marketing photos. How's Nisha? I asked, because some part of me needed to prove I could say her name without flinching. We're fine. We have a daughter now. She's 18 months old. That hurt more than I expected. A daughter, a family, the life that could have been mine. But I kept my voice steady. Congratulations. I hope you're very happy. Maya, I need to go, Arjun. I have a meeting. Like I said, everything with the building will be handled professionally. You have nothing to worry about. I hung up before he could respond. For the next 6 months, I threw myself into the building renovations. I redesigned the lobby, updated the common areas, improved the building's amenities. I wanted it to be the best managed property in the neighborhood. Every decision was made with both financial sense and a secret satisfaction that Arjun would benefit from my work. I never went to the building personally. I couldn't. I wasn't ready to risk running into him or his family. But I reviewed every report, approved every expense, monitored every detail. The property value increased by 15% in the first year. Then, one evening about 8 months after I'd bought the building, Priya called me. Maya, you need to see this. She sounded upset. See what? I'm sending you a link. Just look at it. The link was to a social media post from Nisha's account. I hadn't looked at her profile in years, but apparently Priya still kept tabs. The post was a photo of Arjun and Nisha at some charity event, both dressed in designer clothes, smiling. But it was the caption that caught my attention. Blessed to be celebrating our 3rd anniversary. So grateful for the life we've built together. True partnerships are built on shared values and understanding. Power couple, and for 3 years, had love and success. Shared values. Understanding. The words felt like they were aimed at me, even though I knew rationally they probably weren't. But what got me was the comments. Hundreds of people gushing about their perfect life, their beautiful family, their success. Why did you show me this? I asked Priya. Because you need to see that she's performing. Maya, I know people in their social circle. The rumors are everywhere. What rumors? That the marriage isn't what it looks like, that his father's company is struggling despite the merger, that they're living beyond their means to keep up appearances, that Arjun is miserable. I don't care if he's miserable, I said automatically. Don't you? I hung up and stared at that photo for a long time. Did I care? I'd built a successful career, bought a building, proven my worth 1,000 times over. I'd won, hadn't I? So why did I still feel this hollow ache in my chest? The answer came 2 months later. My property manager called me, concerned. Arjun's rent payment was late. It had never been late before. How late? I asked. 2 weeks. I've sent the standard reminder notices, but no response. I wanted to flag it since you review everything personally. Give it another week, then escalate to the late payment protocol. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Was Priya right? Were they struggling financially? Part of me, a petty part I wasn't proud of, wanted it to be true. But another part, the part that had loved Arjun for 6 years, felt concerned. 3 weeks later, the property manager called again. Ms. Sharma, I need to inform you that Mr. Malhotra has requested a meeting to discuss his lease situation. He's asked to meet with you directly. My heart started racing. What did you tell him? That I'd relay his request. What would you like me to do? I thought about it for a long moment. I could refuse. I could keep everything at arm's length, handled through lawyers and property managers. That would be the professional thing to do. But I'd bought that building for a reason, hadn't I? And maybe that reason required me to face him. Set up a meeting, I said. Next week, at my office. He arrived at my office on a Thursday afternoon, and I almost didn't recognize him. He'd aged in ways that 3.5 years shouldn't have caused. There were lines around his eyes, gray at his temples. He wore an expensive suit, but it hung on him like he'd lost weight and hadn't bothered to have it tailored. Maya, he said, standing awkwardly in my doorway. Thank you for seeing me. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. My office was beautiful. I designed it myself, all clean lines and natural light, with awards and magazine features tastefully displayed. I saw him take it all in, saw the realization cross his face. She really did make it. You wanted to discuss your lease? I said, keeping my voice neutral. He sat down heavily. I need to ask for a favor. I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I need you to give me 90 days to sort out my finances. I can't make rent this month. I studied him. Can't or won't? Can't, he said quietly. My father's company is going under. We've lost 3 major contracts. The merger with Nisha's father didn't work out the way everyone expected. There were complications. Legal issues. Her father pulled his support months ago. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. But you understand I have obligations to my other investors and to the building's financial health. I know. I know this is asking a lot. But Maya, I have a daughter. If I can't make rent, we'll have to move. And Nisha has her life set up here. Her friends, her daughter's daycare. I just need some time to figure things out. I'm looking for work outside the family business. I've had some interviews. There was something pathetic about him sitting there, asking me for mercy. This was the man who told me everything is business, while he broke my heart. The man who'd chosen money and connections over the life we'd built together. And now he was here, in my office, begging. I should have felt triumphant. Isn't this what I'd wanted? Proof that I'd won? But looking at him, all I felt was tired. Let me ask you something, I said. Do you love her, Nisha? He looked startled. What does that have to do with? Just answer the question. He was quiet for a long moment. I care about her. She's the mother of my child. We have a life together. That's not what I asked. No, he said finally, meeting my eyes. Not the way I loved you. Not even close. The admission hung in the air between us. I'd waited 3.5 years to hear something like this. And now that I had, it didn't feel the way I'd imagined. You made your choice, I said softly. You chose security over love, money over happiness. And now you're sitting in my office, asking me to save you from the consequences of that choice. I know. I was an idiot. I was scared and weak, and I let my father manipulate me. I've regretted it every single day since. And yet you stayed. You married her. You had a child with her. What else was I supposed to do? Come crawling back to you after what I did? You were better off without me, and look at you now. You proved that. I leaned back in my chair, thinking about the girl I'd been 3.5 years ago, crying on Priya's couch, wondering if she'd ever feel whole again. Thinking about the countless nights I'd worked until dawn, driven by anger and hurt and a desperate need to prove my worth. Thinking about this moment I'd fantasized about. Him powerless, me in control. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I'm going to give you 60 days, not 90. That should be enough time for you to find a job and get your first paycheck, or to find alternative housing if you need to move. In exchange, you're going to do something for me. He looked wary. What? You're going to tell me the truth. Why did you really leave me? And don't give me that bullshit about practical choices and business mergers. I want the real reason. He was quiet for so long, I thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I was terrified. You were so talented, so driven. You were going places, and I could see it even then. And I was just the disappointing son of a real estate mogul, coasting on my father's name. I thought if I married someone like Nisha, someone from the same world, I wouldn't have to constantly worry about measuring up. I wouldn't have to watch you become more successful than me and wonder when you'd realize you could do better. I stared at him. That's the most cowardly thing I've ever heard. I know. I loved you. I would have supported you. We could have built something together. I know that now, but I was 28 years old and scared of my own inadequacy. So I ran toward the easier option, and I've been paying for it ever since. I wanted to be angry, but I just felt sad. Sad for him, sad for the time we'd lost, sad for the girl I'd been who thought love was enough. 60 days, I repeated. After that, either your rent is current or you need to be out. I'll have my property manager draw up a formal payment plan agreement. And Arjun, this is the last favor you'll ever get from me. Not because I hate you, but because we both need to move on. He nodded, standing up. Thank you, Maya. I mean it. And for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. For all of this, you deserve better than what I gave you. Yes, I said simply. I did. After he left, I sat in my office as the sun set over Mumbai, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I thought about revenge, about justice, about the complicated mess of human emotion that can't be solved by money or success or even satisfaction. I'd bought the building to prove a point, to show Arjun what he'd lost. But sitting there, I realized something. The best revenge wasn't holding power over him. It was becoming someone who didn't need revenge at all. 2 months later, Arjun paid his back rent and signed a payment plan. He'd gotten a job with a construction company, a significant step down from his previous position, but steady work. 6 months after that, he and Nisha moved out. I heard through the grapevine that they'd relocated to a smaller apartment in Bandra, that they were trying to rebuild on a more modest scale. I sold the building a year later. The renovations had gone beautifully, and I made a significant profit. But I didn't need the building anymore. It had served its purpose. Not the purpose I thought I'd bought it for, but something more important. It had helped me realize that success isn't about making other people regret losing you. It's about becoming someone you're proud to be. My firm continued to grow. I hired more staff, took on bigger projects, won more awards. I started dating again, this time with an open heart. I bought a beautiful apartment with a view of the sea, not to prove anything to anyone, but because I wanted it. Sometimes I think about Arjun, about that conversation in my office. I hope he's found some measure of peace. I hope he's learned to value himself and his choices. I hope his daughter grows up in a home built on honesty rather than appearances. As for me, I learned that the best way to move past betrayal isn't to seek revenge. It's to build a life so full and meaningful that the betrayal becomes just another chapter in your story, not the defining one. The truth is, success isn't about making them regret leaving you. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs their regret to feel whole.